Hello, welcome to Combat Chatters podcast. Today we're going to be talking about last week's card as well as this week's upcoming card. Last week we spoke about a few predictions, what was going to go on this card. My predictions were way off, but we're going to talk about that. As well as that, we're also joined by Soli today. Finny Future Soli for us.
So this is another one of our friends who we've been watching MMA with for a few years. We're going to be looking to get him on just for a few cards whenever we can, really. So I'll start off by asking you a few questions. What's your favourite fight you've ever watched live?
Fight. Kobe Usman 2, definitely absolute war.
Kobe Usman 2 was class.
I thought Kobe won, but...
Everyone thought Kobe won. So who's your favourite fighter?
The man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Green.
And what was the other one I had written down? Shit, I forgot.
So who's the GOAT in my eyes?
Oh yeah, who is the GOAT in your opinion?
See, I want to say Bobby Green, but we all know I'm going to have to go with Khabib or GSP, but I can never choose.
Personally, I would edge to
Bobby Green.
To GSP in that instance, because just the title defences alone. Really,
yeah, I think that is fair enough, but it's just like
Khabib's dominance.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah.
I think they can both get goated.
I'd love to. I wish they could have fought. Anyway, getting into last week's card. Will you start us off?
So last week's card was Chaos Williams versus Randy Brown. Really good fight. Good fight. A lot of energy from both fighters. Great performance from Randy Brown. Chaos Williams is also very good. Started off with a lot of energy, very aggressive, constantly going forward, and picking his shots well. Really entertaining fight to watch. Chaos Williams, very good on the counter, but there wasn't that level of, continuous aggression, or not necessarily continuous aggression. He was very aggressive in the fight, but not necessarily,
too aggressive,
continuously
really
going forward, and at the end of the day,
trying to look for a knockout constantly, isn't he? That's the problem.
Well, he was. But in all fairness, Randy Brown, just that energy, how good he is in the clinch, how good he is on the feet, definitely won that one.
I think the fight started off, and I gave Chaos Williams the first round. I don't know about you two.
Oh yeah, because he came in and he glanced at.
Was it the knockdown in the first?
That was
round,
a testament to his power. Yeah. That didn't look. Most punches didn't look like that.
Yeah,
don't normally put someone out down like that.
Chaos obviously started very well, and I think he gets in his own head where you can tell it's not good when a fighter's just looking for the knockout because how much they're loading up.
You look at that first when he was pushing Randy Brown back, he did that jab, planted his feet and uppercut, and by the time he threw the uppercut, Randy Brown had backed off.
Randy, in my opinion, Randy really started fighting well in the last two rounds, but you could see even in the first round he was very aware of the shots coming at him. Chaos just. He only has the knockout. He's very young in his career still, and obviously MMA fans love him just for his pure wildness and KO power. But I think Randy Brown got a read on him very early, and that's why we saw him. I was saying to the people I was watching it with, I was saying you can see Randy Brown was in a flow state in there.
Oh mate, that second round when it picked up, the way he's just like walking off after he slipped, and it's very
he wasn't thinking about anything.
Everything was comfy. It was like it's so slick. The level changes as he hits that jab, and level changes, and then he'll step back and allow Chaos to come onto him and then hit him on the way in. It's quite
Chaos is so tough because although it didn't look like Randy was hitting with massive shots, it was constant pressure, and we would see a lot of fighters break under those circumstances, and Chaos just doesn't stop going for that knockout. So
no, it's and to be fair, to keep that up for
for that long,
3 rounds, because he was swing and a miss like that constantly, it's gonna
So the fight was very good. I thought Randy Brown really that will help propel his name more. He'll get a bigger fight from that. Because he looked very impressive.
The slapping.
Yeah.
They're just slapping someone mid-fight, that's just...
Yeah.
I thought Randy Brown was immense, honestly. The way he fought, he was so composed. He looked calm, he wasn't going, he wasn't lunging for him. He was very aggressive and whatnot, but in everything he did it with composure.
Yeah.
Looking at Williams, there were a few opportunities on the counter where, I was looking at Randy Brown and I was thinking to myself, could this be it? But he just worked... Just the way he worked, from an intelligence point of view, it was just amazing. It was just such good fighting intelligence.
I think Chaos, it was halfway through the second round, it was quite good from Chaos actually, when what Randy Brown was doing is every time he jabs or he throws that straight, he'll dip and step back, and I think and Chaos noticed this, and as he dips, Chaos comes in with that.
With the uppercut.
It was like a kind of like
hook,
uppercut,
and
it's just got him. And then of course they went to the ground, and but Randy's got such long legs, that butterfly guy.
You don't see MMA fighters use their reach as well as Randy, in general, as well as
his
Randy
legs
Brown
though
does.
are so long, he can that distance control and management is quite impressive.
I feel like Randy Brown's one of the better fighters I've seen in recent times at using his range. You don't see MMA fighters really utilise the jab loads. So I was very impressed.
It was slow Chaos down a bit this day because of course he's just come off knocking Hassan out and then Beza. So
I think it's really important that I did use his range as well. A fight like Chaos,
you can't get touched by him.
The shots he was firing, honestly. The fact that he was able to use that range and the fact that he was able to keep him at bay both times, during the second and third round. Third round, obviously, Chaos came out a lot harder than he had beforehand. Not as if he ever wasn't going light, but he really picked it up.
He did.
He's got good endurance to throw stuff like that constantly.
The cardio is insane, absolutely insane. But using that range, he was really able to, especially during the second round, keep control of that centre of the octagon. And to keep him moving. Which would have been good for preserving Brown's endurance. But as well as that, also just knocking him out because he's moving around constantly.
Brown,
and that range, you don't want to be getting close to you. So really utilising that range, he really put on a very good performance. Probably one of the best performances in the card.
I do like his demeanour's quite good as well, like throwing question mark kicks.
He's very confident.
And his like his facial expressions when he's looking at it, you can tell it kind of like when he starts slapping him and stuff like that, it's going to antagonise Williams and it's going to make Williams rush in.
Someone like Williams is going to get angry.
You saw him at the start of the fight staring him down. He's just like that slowly changed. You see him at the start of the second round, his whole demeanour changed. He stood there like.
And also, what a lot of people don't know is I'm pretty sure Randy has Renzo Gracie in his corner as well. So apparently,
really?
So I think it's Renzo. It's one of the big Gracies, and he's been training there since he was a kid. And so his ground game is very, very good, and his
clinch control was good. I like how he utilises his height because of course that's with the range, and then it's when it was when every time he'd get backed up against the cage, he was either going for the underhook or he was fretting that standing guillotine, which someone like him, all he's going to have to do.
John, I'm not comparing him to John Jones, but body shape, both very long guys, and we've seen Jones use the standing guillotine. I think it was against Machida, but I'm not 100%. And it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, it's often those longer, taller guys when they're backed up against the cage, And
even if you're not going to get it, it's going to get you out of the clinch, and you can just
it'll make the fighter think again about getting you in that position.
I think that his clinch work, it can't be overlooked. There were maybe 4 or 5 occasions I can remember off the top of my head when they were in the clinch and he reacted to it so well. Obviously, just the way he had control of it. Someone like Randy, but you don't want them too close to you. In the clinch, you're basically you're right next to each other, and the fact he did control it whilst taking minimal damage, that's incredible. Even during the attempted Darce choke, he recovered from that very well.
I think it's being wary on the way out of the clinch as well, because if Chaos decides to unload coming out of the clinch,
I mean, we've seen a lot of knockouts from. So I think Chaos. I think that's a winnable fight for him, but I just think he's too young in his MMA career to really change up his plan. It doesn't seem like he has multiple plans in a fight.
It's a good win for Randy Brown, because that's
performance.
Like I said earlier, what Chaos is coming off to step in there, and you do have to think like this guy's got serious power, but. Does he rely on it too much?
I think
opening round was
I think
just
he relies on his power. I thought that before the fight.
But it's like when the level change happened, he caught him with that hook. That's like, right, try that again. That was clever from Chaos. But then he just, as soon as that happens,
he switches to the
starts swinging again. You see,
So now, if we move on to the next fight on the main card, Fergs, do you want to introduce us for that one?
Of course. So the next fight on the main card, if I believe the next
OSP
fight was
Shogun Rua.
No, there it is. So other fight, it wasn't the most exciting fight.
No.
It's important to remember both these guys, legends of the game.
The battle of the granddads, as I called it.
they're both older guys, and it's you can't expect it to be as good as as some of the other fights in the main card, or maybe even potentially as good as it would have been 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
But I think regardless, it wasn't the most exciting fight. It wasn't necessarily a poor fight, but but it wasn't that exciting. I think that Shogun did okay. I think he did well with his lower leg kicks. Nothing special, but he did a good job, especially considering OSP had a lot of range on him.
A lot of range.
Much bigger. He's much taller. So I think he did really well with that. OSP. Yeah, he did okay. I
think it's the third round when OSP came out a bit to the end.
Well, I think what really took it for OSP was just constant front kicks. I just can't even count. I don't even know how many front kicks the body used. Yeah, he really kept him away with those front kicks, and I think Shogun just doesn't have the explosiveness anymore to get in.
What I was saying before we started is that he was opening up with the leg kick to try and explode onto OSP.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's just. It wasn't there
anymore. Yeah,
and then of course sad, he's tired out by the third round, and OSP's just thrown a couple of punches down the pipe, split his head open.
I just don't think OSP has a big enough killer instinct in the cage. Like, we've seen how much power that
very
guy
martial
has.
artisty.
And we've seen some nights he'll just turn up and it just looks like he doesn't want to be in there fighting. Like, I mean, that sounds harsh, and it's easy for me to say that sat here. But
chill dude.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, I think looking at the two of them, as far as the fight, they're not as young as they used to be. They've not got the energy. Not to say they haven't got the cardio. But there's a difference between cardio and energy.
Yeah, definitely.
You can be explosive and have the very poor cardio, or you can have really good cardio and not be very explosive. Obviously, they're both. 40, one's 39, I think, OSP. And I think that, looking at him, I just think that, with age, once your body's broken down that much, when you get to that age, your body starts breaking down at 27.
Yeah, the game doesn't... I mean, I think that's too early to say because, I mean, you look at every UFC champion there, I think they're 30 or above, or pretty much every UFC champion.
A lot more.
I mean, you do come into your physical fitness past 28 and stuff like that.
I think with other sports, your prime is younger, but in my opinion, your MMA prime is like 28 to 34 years old, so like roughly that sort of phase in your life.
Of course, if that is your prime, but at that point, your body's breaking down. A lot of that, I don't think that's necessarily down to you being your physical peak necessarily, although a lot of them are within their physical peak, like Gaethje and Oliveira, they're not exactly 23, are they?
No,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. The pinnacle of fighting,
Of course. But when you're 13 years past the age, your body starts breaking down.
Yeah. I think
then it starts. Then it really starts. So I honestly think that
you saw him in the
10 years younger might be different. But
I mean, you look
end of round 2, start of round 3. Like Shogun was like, he was tired in the last round. Like, he wasn't exploding like he was in the first.
No, and
it's just sad to see, really, isn't it?
I went through like a Shogun phase last week, getting ready for last week's pod, and I think I watched every single one of his Pride fights because it just I started.
Was it in Pride 12 and 1?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. He didn't lose many at all in Pride, but I mean, you see him beat like the people he did, and even when he came to the UFC, beating Chuck Liddell and people like that. People don't know how much of a legend Shogun is.
Daniel Cormier made a good point. Daniel Cormier said Rua was fighting in the UFC when I turned up, and he's still fighting now. It's like
same with Bisping.
It's what I mean. But it's just these people, they just love being in the ring, and even if they're going to put on, let's be honest, it wasn't the greatest fight, was it? But they want to be in there, and you've got to give respect to that. I mean, even at 40 years old to get in there, and
So, Fergus, I just got a question. So Dana was talking after the fight, and he was saying people like OSP and Shogun, because they're not getting knocked out, like he'll carry on. But in your opinion, is it a factor that you have to look at, like your body's breaking down and putting someone in that situation where they're gonna have to fight, where they don't have the speed and the explosiveness? Is that just as much danger as it is if you've been knocked out in the past loads? Or
I think just because somebody's not necessarily getting knocked out doesn't mean they're not taking damage.
Exactly.
And I think that's important to bear in mind that not all damage is necessarily due to being knocked out. Your body, I mean, obviously, stuff like your muscles and whatnot. Obviously, they typically tend to remain strong during physical exercise and whatnot.
Yeah.
But stuff like your bone density and whatnot, it's not always there. And I think if I'm completely honest with you, you know, like it's all good saying they've not been knocked out yet, but you wait until the next fight. What happens when they do get knocked out? I mean, what happens 10 years down the line when they develop, an illness or a disease?
Exactly.
Where, you know, they might be left with, you know, a brain-related illness, you know, such as dementia and whatnot. You know, it's why in football, you know, they're talking about stopping kids from heading footballs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's just it's
or soccer.
I think we're at that stage at the moment though, of MMA where we're going to start to see
people retiring,
and then people getting brain injuries because
definitely
it's such a young sport when you actually think about it. Like you think about like American football's got a really big problem with like brain related. I mean, boxing.
There was the lawsuit.
Boxing's been around
American football. I can't remember what player it was, but he settled for a massive sum of money in court because of brain injuries.
I mean, you look at that, the mind of Aaron Hernandez. He got CTE. They reckon it just.
What? And that's what is that the murderer?
They link it to that, and it destroys all reasoning.
Yeah, well,
but it's we're at that stage now where there is legends who are reaching their 50s.
Yeah.
In MMA, and we're going to start to see.
Well, I don't know if you boys saw the news, but a doctor contacted Bisping and said, because he's having, I think it was night trauma or something like that, where night terrors, and the doctor contacted him and said it's probably related to CT, like dementia. He's got like a lot.
He took some damage.
Yeah, he's always complaining about headaches and.
Do you reckon that Dan Henderson?
Well, yeah, like all knockouts.
Flying
Dan Henderson,
ground and pound called CT. On
Anderson Silva. You got to think all that. Even going back to Shogun. Just because Dana is saying he's not getting knocked out,
he's still getting hit,
and he's been knocked out a lot of times. I, in my opinion, I think Shogun should be able to have another fight because, obviously, like it's not. You won't watch and you're like, oh my god, he's so far away from the pack. Like it wasn't that bad, but there's like it's going to be like
there's going to be some youngster that's going to be fed to him.
Exactly, and we'll get on to Tony later. But
I think
but like everyone's talking about it. Tony seems like he wants to fight again, and at some point, I think someone needs to step in.
Tony's brain's going to get seriously.
Like, that shit's dangerous when you're older.
I mean, it's important to remember, you know, stuff like concussions and whatnot. They're considered traumatic brain injuries, and the reason why is, you know, you can have concussion and you might be able to, you know, be coherent and you might be able to speak normally and, you know, you function in the eyes of the public, you know,
what's going on internally
as a functioning, healthy human being. But there's so much that's going on in the brain, and there's so much which, you know, although we know a lot about it, there's still a lot we don't know about it, and a lot
loads.
Exactly, you know. And it's if you look at these athletes, you know, from, you know, back in the day, you know, who are now like in their 60s, 10, 65, you know.
You look at Muhammad Ali, he's
a lot of
prime.
A lot of boxers.
I mean, you even look at. It's crazy.
I mean, there was
a football team, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
You see that Mexican boxer who got hit in the back of the head.
Well, yeah.
You've seen him now. He's like, it's just, It's
a dangerous game, but
it's the problem with the sport we love.
I mean, it's not nice, but my opinion on it is, at the end of the day, Shogun's fought who he's fought, and he's done what he's done, and even Tony has done what he's done. At the end of the day, it is up to them when they retire still. But
that's the whole thing, though. It's all up to their discretion.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, sport is never going to be a matter of, you know, never going to be a matter of it's completely safe for the brain. It's not. You're taking blows to the head constantly. They're like gloves. Yeah. They're very like gloves. You're taking repeated trauma. You know, it's not just the glove you're taking trauma from. You're taking trauma from leg kicks. You're taking trauma from knees, elbows. None of that's good for the brain. Getting knocked out is not good whatsoever.
They've got the new study on chokes. People used to say, getting choked out is fine because it's not a knockout, but they've shown multiple studies that getting choked out still really affects the brain.
I don't know, I've been put out in a choke before and it's not.
Yeah.
You feel slightly less.
Yeah.
You feel, dumb for a while after.
Yeah. So, sorry, I just wanted to get into a chat about like more of the science side about things because... Like you made the perfect example where the sport is so new, we haven't seen it yet, but I think
we're coming up on now.
Realise.
We're coming up on 25 years recently.
Or 30, or, like it's not been around long.
But like, give it like you said though, the night traumas with Bisping, stuff like that. Yeah. I think Ferguson's going to be a prime example.
Chuck Liddell, I think. I'm not going to come out and start saying I think this guy would have dementia. I think this guy would have Parkinson's. But
you see him sometimes in interviews. You see him a bit
like not there all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting into the next one on the main card.
So the next part on the main card was Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler.
Boom.
First round. amazing to watch. Second round, absolutely devastating, honestly.
Still thinking about it now.
But,
it's just...
yeah, I mean, it's such a shame because the way Ferguson, started the fight, he looked really energetic, he looked really sharp. We were seeing a lot of his movement, which we were seeing prior. He's had a bit of time off, a year or so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a real
Much
shame to see,
needed.
especially considering he looked like he was doing very well. Michael Chandler was also amazing.
Always.
When isn't he?
Yeah.
Just pure athleticism. But yeah, it was really disappointing, to see the result. Fair play to Chandler.
Yeah.
What a
you
knockout,
can't
you know what I
hate,
mean?
can
But
you? That-
Chandler knew exactly what he was doing at the start of that second round. He
Yeah.
did not want to stay in there, because if he did, Tony would have just...
I mean, you could see the mood Tony was in, and that you remember when all the memes were getting released of Tony's last 12 opponents and all their faces were cut up, and that was going to be a prime example of a Tony fight, and it went from Tony time to it's time Tony. So it wasn't great to watch.
It was really nice
it was
though,
great
because
to
as soon as it opens, you get that feeling of right, we know what sort of animal Chandler is, and we know what sort of fighter Tony is, and you see Tony. As soon as he started, he's moving his feet back and forth. Those stances are getting switched.
Yeah.
And then it was just when that first punch went in.
Yeah.
What was it? It was did he throw the cross and then came around with a hook?
Yeah,
I think?
no, he threw. I think it was the jab, and then
He
just
walked
came
into
around
it.
the top with the
Chandler was
straight,
walking into a few of them. Yeah,
he did circle round. What was your opinion on the first round, Fergus? Who did you score it for? Just wondering.
So, I mean, it's a hard one, really, especially when you have a takedown like that.
Yeah.
And especially
Control
control he had that control on the ground as well.
Tony landing the elbows from that. I'd say they just did just as much damage to each other when they were on the ground.
Definitely so. But with that takedown,
my.
Absolute bulldoze. It would be hard to score it. I'd probably have to go perhaps Ferguson just because of what he did on the ground.
Yeah, and the
although saying
knockdown.
that the takedown was also and the knockdown as well, obviously.
I think
that the takedown, would have definitely scored a good few points for Chandler. Honestly,
Tony off his back though. He works so
good.
much.
That was why
he's so comfortable being on his back, and he's throwing little elbows in, and he's throwing these little punches. I mean, we've seen what he's done from his back before. He's knocked someone out. It's just.
And I think that was the prime example of why everyone wanted the Khabib fight so bad, is because Tony, when he's on it, off his back, is a bitch to get around. He'll keep you in his guard the whole time.
I feel like a lot of fighters what happens is as soon as they drop onto their back, they do this thing of right, I've got to hold their opponent's arms to stop them from getting punched, and then they kind of sit there and shell up, and they don't open your guard a bit, allow yourself to move. Whereas Tony, he will open his guard and he will hit you, and it's a nuisance then for them on top, because they're trying to hit you whilst you're trying to hit them, and it's like you know what I mean, when a lot of fighters will just sit there on their back, and they won't.
I mean, Chandler didn't look like he was having fun when he got the takedown.
No,
not at all.
most of the times you see people drilling him, and he was just.
I mean, Tony was having fun. You saw when the round ended. It hurts so bad because the round ended and Tony's laughing at him when Chandler's getting up, and it's just. It really was prime Tony, and it did seem anyway. But
brings us on to round two.
Yeah,
really,
let's go on to round two. And Soli, let's give us your thought.
Right, the thing is, you're thinking, as soon as it starts, there's not much of it, but what's happening is you see that Chandler, he's not going anywhere near Tony. He is, because as soon as he's going to step in with Tony, Tony is just going to do the same thing in the first round.
Tony's boxing,
and he's going to let the hands go.
Yeah,
and it was Tony's stance. His hands are so low, and he keeps his head high. It's that weird.
Yeah.
And of course, his hands are so low that when Chandler steps around, you see him do that slight step. Tony drops his hands a little bit again, and then that foot just...
He even dips his chin out a bit,
and that foot just comes up, and there's no time to move, there's no time to even maybe slightly grab the foot or parry the foot, and before you know it, he's out cold.
How long was he out for? It was
3
a while.
minutes,
I mean, Chandler did 4 backflips, jumped on the cage, and
Looked
celebrated with his corner by the time Tony...
That was a drop kick. That's something you see rugby players do to a ball.
Well, it was. And have you got boys seen the screenshot of when the kick lands?
Oh, his face!
I don't know if you've seen it, Fergal. Someone take over from my talking, so I can
but that face was screwed up. But I think that it was the slight movement from Chandler that opened up that kick, because it just, you think he's going for a hook, and you see Tony's hand kind of come out a little bit, almost to maybe get ready to parry a punch.
Does push
and then that foot just the power. I think Chandler played that really well. Chandler knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to put Tony out. Yeah, look at that,
Ferg.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, watching that kick, it's so devastating because the moment you saw it, you know, even partially connect, you knew it was out. There's no way anybody.
That's what I was.
And if anyone is going to come back from
he
that,
got
it's Tony.
flattened from it. Absolutely flattened. It was devastating. You know, he was out for so long. I mean,
it seemed he was out for like because I watched it live. Pretty brutal to do here in the UK, but I felt like he was out for like 6 minutes when I mean, we were all really, really concerned for Tony's well-being. Like,
it's like
it was bad. It did not look healthy. It didn't look like he'd just, you know, been knocked down.
It's Tony Ferguson. The man doesn't go out like that.
No, we've never ever seen it.
It took Gaethje. What was it? 4 rounds?
5 in the 5th round.
In the 5th round,
But he didn't even drop him once in that fight.
No, exactly.
I mean,
to be honest, I actually expected this fight to be similar to the Gaethje-Ferguson fight. I thought that Ferguson was going to come out a little bit weird, and I thought Chandler was just going to open up on him
every time.
It just surprised me, and that's what's really annoying about this. Is like,
he looks so good,
mate.
But
can't quite remember what my prediction was exactly for this fight, but I did not expect that at all.
No.
Honestly, you know, I mean, not to say that, you know, the thought of, you know, Chandler knock him out, but it was always a very realistic possibility.
I think you said Chandler decision, but Tony don't get finished.
I generally
not like that, like that. I mean, well, now like that, clearly,
but hopefully never like that again.
Well, hopefully not. But honestly, it was just devastating because getting kicked like that, you know, it's not even really nice to watch.
No,
you know,
it wasn't.
It's not
nice
like you watch it and think to yourself,
really?
What a knockout.
No, it's like
I enjoyed it.
Well, I think I've made it. I've made it well known since Chandler's arrived in the UFC that this guy's one of my favourite fighters. And in that fight, the only reason I wanted Tony Ferguson to win is simply because
he needs it.
The loss he's been on, and how it just hurt me to see someone falling so far. But like any other time, I would have wanted Chandler to win. But
it's Tony Ferguson, mate. He's just a big...
exactly. Like no one wants to see Tony.
And the build-up as well. Did you see the interview with Cormier?
Yeah,
he was just so like. He was just mate.
I was watching his interviews and thinking, all right, this guy actually doesn't. This guy seems like he's still with it because I've always thought Tony's. I mean, it's like everyone thinks Tony is absolutely mental.
El Kukui got cocooned, tucked in, mate. Like it's just sad, but it's just one of those knockouts that like is going to go down. You're just going to say Michael Chandler, and the first thing most people are going to think is.
And talking to Michael Chandler, I just want to move on from the fight a little bit and just praise Chandler on what he's done since he's joined the UFC. Mate. Because you see it on the mic, like, some people might not be fans, but he is like you see the legends of the WWE, and you see Ric Flair and people like that.
He's got that.
Yeah, like he's got that aura where everyone will just be attracted. He's imagine how many sales him and a fight with Conor McGregor would do at this point in their careers now.
I loved it when he beat Hooker. Was it not when he beat Hooker? Was that his debut?
Yeah, Hooker.
So when he beat Hooker, to go back on that though, that lovely body hook into the head. But what I'm actually getting at is as soon as he wins, you see him grab the mic and he looks calm and he just goes, "Khabib!"
Yeah. Conor McGregor. And now he's obviously came into the UFC, stamped his mark. Because I remember all the comments before he had his first fight was, "This is some bum from Bellator. He's never competed with the best." And people seem not to remember that he went out and had 2 absolute wars with Eddie Alvarez, submitted him in one, and a lot of people thought he won the other one. And that was a young Eddie Alvarez who was like a killer. Like Eddie came to the UFC and became champ.
I think people do sometimes sleep on Bellator. It's
still
an elite fight, they are going to be able to adapt to the UFC. Or it's there are fighters obviously who've come from Bellator and done well in the UFC. It's not.
But Chandler's amazing, man. His promos, his fighting style. He's one of the most electrifying fighters I've ever seen in my life.
Everything, his athleticism, his fight, so his physique. He's just well-rounded fighter, mate. Like
going back to how he's done in the UFC, he's done so well since coming through. Obviously, Dan Hickel was his first win. Yes, he lost his previous 2 fights, but
you watched those fights
and Justin Gaethje.
And they're not losses. Everyone came out those fights saying, "Oh my god, what a beast Michael Chandler is."
Oh yeah, 100%.
You have to realise that Oliveira Chandler fight.
That's the best anyone's done against Oliveira in this title run. I mean, Dustin survived way longer, but And obviously he hurt Charles, but I wouldn't say he was anywhere near finishing him compared to what Chandler was. Chandler was punches like seconds away from becoming
that Gaethje fight was like something you see outside a pub.
Yeah, like
that was just two blokes just hitting each other relentlessly. A lot of the fighters who fought on each other on this card actually.
I think there was 5 fighters who
They're
fought.
active, man. They're really. It's what I like about these boys though. They're active fighters, and it's.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to give Chandler some praise. And not so excited to get.
Do we have to do this?
I think just for the culture, we're going to have to go into a little bit because I've got a few points I want to bring up. But
I'm going to be quite horrible in a minute.
Yeah, well, I think it might sound harsh how we're about to go into this, but
it's not harsh, is it?
It's what we saw. So I feel like Fergal's definitely the nicest guy here, so we'll let him start it off.
Alright, so here we had the Rose Esparza fight, and honestly, absolutely abysmal. You know, for a UFC fight, it's probably one of the worst I've seen in history.
Yeah, same.
If I'm honest with you, it's
I'd rather
really
watch CM Punk
because there is just so much potential. There was so much potential for this fight.
Yeah, you were really excited for this fight.
100%. You know, it was a rematch. You know what I mean? Like so, but honestly, as far as the fight was concerned, it was just so lackluster.
Yeah.
Honestly, and there seemed to be like absolutely no desire to really go for it. And the fact that at the end of it, Rose seemed confident that she'd won that. I mean, to be fair, neither of them should have felt confident.
It should have been a no contest.
The fact he just opened up the nicest guy here and he's just said,
I mean, you wait for a minute because when I get started, honestly.
But no, honestly, it was absolutely shambolic. And the corner as well. Rose's corner, you're doing everything right. No,
you're not doing anything at all.
Did you hear? I think it was Pat Barry, by the way. I love Pat Barry, such an entertaining fighter.
Can't have your fellow in the ring with you.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that, but it's worked before in all of Rose's performances. So no, but anyway, we're not going to get into that. But what I was going to say is, what the hell was he talking? Like he said, I think it was the third round. Everyone was booing, and he turns to Rose and says, "Do you hear that crowd booing? That's just reassurance of what you're doing." Like,
reassurance of that what you're doing is absolutely abysmal.
Like it was so bad. Anyway, I just want to say, last week I felt like I cut such a good promo for this fight. Like we talked about how the whole division started with Carla and Rose, and by the way, that first fight was an amazing fight, back and forth, striking, grappling, and then it circled all the way around, pretty much a decade later, to these two meeting again. I think it was 7-8 years, so not a decade, but almost. And and so it circled all the way back round to these two meeting again, and Rose was a massive favourite. The fight starts, and the fight doesn't start. Actually, the fight didn't start till like round 5. Rose
when it ended.
Yeah, I mean Rose had a okay 5 round. If we're being really nice,
I think you have to look at this right. If you watch the fight and you were to show someone the stats alone, which you don't look at stats because it doesn't tell the story of the fight. But Esparza 2 out of 11 takedown attempts. Rose got 1 out of 1 in the 5th, and this is where it gets really bad. 5-round title fight that went the distance. Rose threw 38 punches and Esparza threw 30. That averages out at 6 punches a round?
That is terrible.
6 punches a round. Yeah, if they were kicking and grappling, you could maybe think, if they were wrestling and doing some really nice jiu-jitsu, then maybe, well...
I mean, I read in my notes, I don't know if you boys would agree with this, but I read it both seemed like they were so scared of each other.
I don't know. I think Esparza at points was trying to engage. You saw the flurry at the start where she got the takedown and the double leg that Rose just bounced up from. And as well, the other one of Esparza's where she the takedown got stuffed and then she picked the ankle. That's about the most exciting thing that happened across 25 minutes.
I mean, it's really funny that you mentioned about, them being scared of each other. Last week what I said was that, there could be a lot of nerves for us. It's been a rematch, having lost previously. And I don't know whether it was nerves or what was exactly.
It had to be something.
You've knocked out Whaley with a head kick.
but it's the same fight, though. It's the same fight, you know what I mean? And I don't know what it was exactly, but something definitely impacted.
Yeah, there was something.
Of both of them, And I think Esparza, showed a bit more determination.
That's why she's
during the fight. Well, that's why she's champ. But even then, to be fair, for a champ, that was a very poor performance.
I mean,
from both of them. And
I think
it wasn't really a performance. It was nothing.
No, you've got Rose coming off 3 fights with Andrade, 2 with Whaley that were good.
Yeah.
Whaley won debatable with some people. the second
Sam,
one.
But, yeah.
And then you've got Esparza coming off a 6-fight win streak,
beating the top contenders in the Division 2.
And now it's a 7-fight win streak. But you're looking at it thinking you've won the title in the worst possible way.
Like I was going to ask you boys a question. I've got a few more points on this, but I just want to ask this. If Carla Esparza headlined her own pay-per-view after that fight, how many people will pay for that card? Like, that doesn't even do 100k.
I think they should, just strip her of the title.
Yeah, that's so
replay
hard.
it.
But that's, again, another thing I was going to say is, like, the ref, not like, you see jiu-jitsu when they're stalling, they both get warned. I think it's jiu-jitsu or wrestling. They both get warned for stalling. You're not allowed to just sit in each other's guards and do nothing. You've got to be looking for opportunities. I thought in MMA it was the same too. I didn't know you could just stand and look at each other. It's like
watching a nature documentary of two goats just looking at each other, circling. You know what I mean? Waiting.
I think I would rather go watch the Grizzly Man documentary again than that fight, because that was class entertainment.
I'd rather watch a CM Punk fight because at least he got hit.
Yeah. Like the Derek Lewis
Ngannou
fight was way better.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was. No, let's get this clear.
I know.
Ngannou Derek Lewis was way better.
This is how bad this fight
Romero Izzy was way better. I was disgusted.
This is the worst fight.
I think it's the worst
UFC
fight.
history.
I mean, a lot of people disagree with me when I said it, who were there, but I thought that was the worst fight.
Look, it's the worst fight in UFC history.
Yeah,
definitely up there.
In the past 10 years.
At least with Derek Lewis and Romero and that, you were kind of on the edge of your seat thinking, when one of these guys lands, it's all over.
Yeah, but Rose could have just knocked her out with a head kick.
And the last point I wanted to make on this fight, I'll get both your opinions on this. Why didn't... Like, we saw when Carla got the takedowns, how quick Rose was able to either sweep her or get straight back up. There was no threat whatsoever when she got taken down. Sure. Why would that not give you the confidence to go out there and let your hands go?
I don't know, because if you've got your corner telling you...
Yeah.
Waffle.
I think that's the biggest thing. I think that, honestly, when Rose, very cocky... got a bit of an ego.
It wasn't great.
Very apparent. It's definitely been reinforced from this fight. And when your corner's telling you you're doing it right, in her mind, that tunnel vision is just telling her you're fine. You're doing it right.
I think she needs to sit down in front of a mirror and have a long, hard look at herself.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Is I've competed a few times, and there's been a couple. I think you have as well.
Yeah.
And nowhere near the level, but I remember the feeling of having a bad round in taekwondo or a bad round in boxing and going back to my corner and just straight away I knew if I just had a good round or not, if I did the right things. Even no matter what my corner was going to tell me, I knew in my head whether I did what I wanted to do in that round. And Rose seemed happy with what she was doing. I was shocked.
Wait, what do you mean what she was doing?
Well, what she wasn't doing.
What was she doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think we should just move on.
Yeah,
from this.
right.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's just the main event next.
Wow.
Main event. Wow.
He's just.
Yeah, Charlie Olives.
He is one of the greatest lightweights.
Definitely. I'd say he's already the second best lightweight.
I mean, you called this to a T.
If you didn't listen last week, last week's podcast. Listen to my call on this fight, because I thought it would go another round, because I thought Oliveira would look to tire him out a little bit more, but he didn't need to in the end. Fergal, what did you think on this one?
Well, I mean, my prediction wasn't quite there. It's a little bit outlandish. You
thought you'd just go for the.
But I thought, if it does happen, then that'd be sick.
Really cool. Yeah.
But obviously, it didn't. I thought Oliveira. I mean, to be fair, I don't think Gaethje necessarily looked poor. I used to think that the way Oliveira started it, the amount of pressure he was putting on, at the end of the day, it's hard to recover. It's hard to deal with that level of pressure. Yeah. It doesn't matter who you are. It's very hard to deal with it. And obviously, Gaethje did land some really, really powerful shots, and they did definitely do something to Oliveira. But at the end of the day, I just think that the way Oliveira went out, I think the way that Oliveira just started piling on the pressure. Honestly, there wasn't a lot he could do with it. It wasn't a matter of not being able to keep up with the intensity. They were both going at a high intensity. You just can't deal with that bombardment of
all the different strikes. Yeah,
and it was so varied as well. It wasn't just punches or kicks or knees or elbows. It was such a wide variety of it, and it's hard to read, especially when all of that's going on. And I think that Oliveira, yes, he's known for his jiu-jitsu and that he's also known for his striking, but it really showed how good a striker he really is.
Yeah.
you know, and how good a lightweight he is. Because Gaethje is not an easy opponent at all. And I thought that submission, that rear naked choke was, I mean, the way he got in, you know, fair play. Starting off with, was it a triangle choke initially?
It's the reverse triangle, mate. And this is what I loved about that. It was the reverse triangle, and I think that's what you call it. I hope it is.
Yeah.
Don't let the coaches down.
No, that is right. Well, I'm no jiu-jitsu guy.
But
I think
it goes,
right.
the armbar's there, the triangle's there, but then it's when he gets out and you think, all right, and it's the transition. He's glued. He's glued to Gaethje. The way that he pivots as Gaethje spins. So as Gaethje spins facing down, which is a terrible idea.
Yeah, well,
roll away,
what
mate.
He does every time.
Yeah, and he obviously, evidently, his jiu-jitsu is not
it's not where it
wrestling,
needs to be.
striking, cool jiu-jitsu, obviously, and he just as soon as Gaethje spins, Oliveira's already pivoted onto his back, and like you said, you just know from that point
that is done.
There's a couple of knockdowns in the fight, and you know, I think I don't know if it all counted or not, but whenever you watch Oliveira drop to the floor, you know, the moment he's ready to get him in his guard, Gaethje's not up for it.
No.
He's not thinking to himself, yeah, I'm gonna go for that, and I'm just gonna, you know, smack him, because it's not gonna end well. You know, he knew exactly what Oliveira is capable of. Obviously,
all it's going to take is if Gaethje feels like he can go into his guard and start trying to hit him, all that's going to happen is Oliveira would have trapped an arm.
Yeah.
And
I do agree with both of you on that point, but I also think to get to the top level and become a champion, which so many of these, like everyone thought Dustin was going to be a champion, everyone thought Gaethje would at some point be a champion, and now Oliveira has come through and put a dent in all their hopes.
It's his story though as well. He's been through it. Like it's.
But what I was going to say is, in this fight, like with Dustin and with Gaethje, when they both hurt, when they both hurt Oliveira, they were in no rush to jump on him and try to get the finish, which is completely understandable. One sec, but at some point to become champion, I think you need to go ahead and take a certain risk in a fight, in a position where a lot of people think maybe you're doing the right thing, but we've seen Oliveira get dropped so much and come back and win exactly in that way. So do you think Gaethje should have took the risk and jumped, especially with that second one, in jumping in and really just trying to finish him off?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have to drop into the guard either. You could circle round and come to the side, knee on belly, and hand fist.
Exactly.
Like I think, is that the second one where he hooked him? He does that 1, 2, 3,
and it was when Oliveira threw the kick and sort of just fell back.
Yeah, left, right, left.
Yeah,
and I think it's that little delayed reaction there. But I think as well, you're allowing someone like Oliveira, every time someone drops him and doesn't capitalise.
Yeah, he's recovering.
Do you see how he how he's operating at that moment? He knows that they won't go through him. And you've seen how calm he is.
Yeah.
Like most people, you know that look people get on their face when they get clipped. That's not there with Oliveira. He just goes back and he just lands like that.
Yeah.
Hands behind his head, waves his legs around, and it's just I think Gaethje came out. I mean, it's that straight right of Oliveira's, mate. It's just straight down the pipe. And opening first 15 seconds, you've got Gaethje wobble.
That's what I was about to say. Like, I knew straight away it was going. Like, I think Gaethje obviously talking so much in the week about he doesn't want nothing on the feet with me. He doesn't. He can't compete with Gaethje there apparently. So anyway, and to come out and get stunned like that with the first punch, like you could see his legs wobble. He wasn't all with it with the very first punch Oliveira landed.
And it's not all. It's that before he initiated the groundwork and the jiu-jitsu. It was that same punch. It comes out of nowhere. He's there, and he pops it back, and it's just mate. It's that punch is. He got Chandler with it, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he got Chandler with the left, but yeah, he's shown to have a lot of power in his hands.
What I think to myself is, obviously, as you said about it, worth taking a risk. I don't think that's not necessarily, not worth taking a risk, but it's important to remember when Oliveira's performing like that on the feet, then is there any much more of a risk to go to the ground than it is on the feet? Obviously, with Gaethje, the way I saw him potentially winning that after, the first maybe minute of it or so, would have been catching him on the counter. When he got in close, throwing his powerful strikes like he does. and getting him down. So he could have potentially gone, into the guard. He could potentially take that risk, or not necessarily gone into the guard. That probably wouldn't have been a good idea. But potentially try to circle around his head and try to go for the knockout that way. But honestly, I think that you have to look at whether either way, the way that Oliveira is performing, whether it would be how he was expected to perform on the ground or how he performed on the feet. I don't think that would have been a safe option. No,
there's no. In my opinion, he's the best finisher the UFC
He is. When you think of MMA, he's what he is. He's got the striking. He's got the groundwork. He's got the
wrestling.
He can kick.
Out wrestled Tony Ferguson with ease.
And the jiu-jitsu is just we don't even need to
no one
say
can
anything.
compete with him in that.
It's could you say he's like a complete MMA fighter?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that Oliveira lacks is a tiny bit of footwork. His footwork's not bad, but I think he could be better at getting out of range quicker. And obviously, we all know this by now, and this is why the fights that he's in are so exciting. There's no head movement.
Oh, there's no head movement. No.
That's he does not move out.
Look
the
at
strikes.
I think he clips Gaethje, and then Gaethje cracks him the uppercut, just grabs his head, and he doesn't even try and shrug the hand. He doesn't move to the side. Gaethje just hits him with that uppercut and goes back. But then he's so confident again in no one going to the ground with him. He's allowed to recover.
It's almost like you've got to put him out cold to win, really.
I think you've made a really good point there of people need to engage.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Chandler, and Chandler was so close to finishing because straight away Chandler had absolutely no problem getting on the ground with him because Chandler's confident in his jiu-jitsu ability. We've seen Chandler submit a world champion. We've seen Chandler submit black belts in the past. Chandler was confident in being able to go down and really go for the finish once he hurt him. And no one else is really... I mean, Dustin didn't get a massive chance to do that, but Dustin wasn't interested in being anywhere on the ground with Oliveira. You could see it. And I mean, that's why I want to see the Chandler fight again so bad, is because Chandler will take it anywhere with Oliveira. And I mean, I think Oliveira probably wins again, but tell me who don't want to see that fight. Like, the first one was so entertaining.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think a lot of fighters who fight Oliveira, a lot of them, as you said, don't want to take it to the ground.
Yeah.
And, it's understandable to a certain extent, but I want to see a fight where it is taken to the ground.
Yeah,
especially when it's a fighter like Chandler as well, who, he's probably not going to do as well as Oliveira on the ground. But he can
certainly do better than Gaethje.
At the end of the day,
he's good enough to not get submitted.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
He's got a strong dude as well.
And his jiu-jitsu is world class. Everything Chandler does is world class.
He just puts his heart into everything, doesn't he?
He's just. I love Chandler.
I think
when you have technique like that and that level of athleticism, something which we didn't touch up too much on his fight. Honestly, he is a top fighter, and I do look forward to seeing him fight again. So it should be really good.
Hopefully, I mean, him and Diaz have been calling each other out on Twitter today. So, I mean, who don't want to see that either? Because Nate Diaz and Chandler fighting seems a bit mental, but fuck it, let's do it. Yeah,
it's worth a watch anyway.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Only if Khabib was here to take Oliveira down from his. But imagine that. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, Khabib and Oliveira is the most interesting matchup there is.
Definitely, I don't think that is something.
No, I mean, it's not going to happen, is it? But I mean, who that would be so cool to see that now.
We'll dream.
Yeah,
we'll dream.
I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on the Andre Filial knockout, the counter hook.
Yeah, that was interesting. Van Camp. Like you said, you made that really good point of earlier. Of he's gotten hit by the hook.
Yeah.
As he's trying to go for the uppercut,
and then he does the same thing again. 3 seconds later.
Like you said, I think he might have a little thing for getting punched.
Yeah. You see his face the first time he gets hit with that counter hook.
He's like smiling.
Yeah.
With his eyes, his mouth don't move. His eyes are just like.
But Filial coming off 2 knockouts, and he's just...
Who's he beaten?
He just beat Beza.
Oh, okay.
So I think his first fight was Michael Pereira, the crazy guy who does with the backflips.
Yeah.
And then that was really short notice, and he looked really good in it, and Pereira just had to fight a really technical fight. And then the second fight was against Beza, and then against Van Camp, and he's just signed another fight for June, I'm pretty sure, so... He's on a roll, and this is a guy to keep an eye on.
When did he beat Beza? 21 days ago?
Yeah, like 2-3 weeks.
I think, I think we'll probably say bye to Beza if he don't. If he loses the next one, do you reckon he's gone?
The thing is, I think
so much potential.
Yeah, he's a really good fighter, but it just slips away.
I mean, look at that last round against Ponzinibbio. Slips away. Knocked out by Chaos.
Yeah, Chaos. Yeah, I think he'll have a few more chances, but the UFC, I think they cut like 21 fighters the other day. It was like, well, I mean, I don't have the list on me, but we'll go through it in the next podcast because, I mean, me and Soli will be doing one in the week together, so we'll talk about some random points because there's not a massive card that we can get involved in, but yeah, so me and Soli will have a good chat about just random stuff like that.
Yeah.
And getting on to the last sort of few points, obviously Ferguson next week we've got the big fight between the big boys in Rakić and Jan Blakowicz.
I mean, it should be a really, really exciting fight. I mean, obviously, you look at Blakowicz, he's a little bit older by about 9 years. I think he's 83.
a little bit older by about 9 years.
A decade older.
Not quite a decade, almost. But yeah, it should be a really good fight. I mean, both are really, really good fighters. I think Blakowicz, it would be interesting to see how he does against a fighter who's, a bit younger, not if he's not done it before.
Beat Israel Adesanya. I still can't believe that.
I think it's
nuts who does that, right?
It's his presence in the octagon. He's so. I mean, you look at even before Glover did him, and you did see him like the way he moving around Glover.
I mean, the Dominic Reyes fight too.
Oh mate, that's yeah. I mean, even when he fought, what am I thinking about?
Was it recent fights? There was Glover, but either way, like
I just think it's his directness, his presence. He will charge you down, and he won't charge you down in like it was like that Dan Hardy breakdown, when he was fighting Latifi, and who else was it?
Oh yeah, I know which one you're on about now. It was Devin
Clark. It's that directness where he'll force you one way. He'll make sure that you can cut off part of the cage, and you actually, when you see it, the amount he actually moves. Around.
He's so good at cutting the angle off to make you move the certain way,
and then picking those shots. It's interesting. I think this would be quite interesting to see how Rakić deals with it.
I think
Rakić fights very similarly.
This is Rakic's, obviously, in my opinion, his hardest test by far. Would you both agree with that?
Yeah,
definitely so. I mean, it should be a really interesting one. I mean, looking at both of them, Blakowicz, obviously he beat Adesanya, a very, very experienced fighter. Rakić, not exactly inexperienced, but not that level of experience. I think, you look at Blakowicz, he's a very heavy striker.
Yeah.
Very heavy.
Have you got that stat there of the takedowns as well?
What's the stat?
The stat for his takedowns. So,
they've got takedown defense. Both of them got really similar overall stats on like octagon time. It's quite
which surprised me.
Are they similar-ish?
Yeah, I think they are. I think they're very comparable.
It's the kicks.
Yeah, they both rely.
So
they've both got a big pair of legs on them.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to Blakowicz, his takedown accuracy is 53%, meaning that over half his takedowns he's dead accurate.
Rakic's defence
90%.
90%.
Yeah.
See, what I think is going to be interesting about this fight is, I think that Rakić is really going to be, able to keep him back with his leg kicks.
Yeah.
And I think that's something which Blakowicz is going to struggle with. Obviously, Blakowicz charges you like a tank.
Yeah, he does run.
He does run, and I'm thinking to myself, there's either two things going to happen with leg kicks. He's going to throw him, he's going to keep him at distance, or Blakowicz just isn't going to care. Yeah. And he's going to charge for him, and
I can see him not caring.
In my honest opinion, I think the leg kicks from Rakić will be a massive problem. Yeah. I generally do. I'm not 100% on who's going to win this one, but I think if Rakić beats Jan, I think 80% of the work will be to leg kicks.
Because I think
100% without a doubt.
I think those leg kicks are going to be a big part in stopping Blakowicz from moving around, because you think if you're going to try and force him away from the side of the cage that you want him to go, and then he just throws, he stands there, and as you're circling into him, just throws a big leg kick as you're coming in as well. And if you plant as you're moving, it's gonna.
I think the main way Jan Blakowicz wins this fight is he's got to be busy. I mean, not sort of Thiago Santos busy, where he just ran at Thiago Santos and got clipped with the hook coming in.
Yeah.
But Dominic Reyes busy, where every time Rakić is looking to set himself and throw a strike,
throwing something.
You blast him. I mean, he landed two body kicks against Reyes, and it literally looked like someone bloody had a go at him with a machete or something like that.
Yeah.
Because the slice and the red mark, and there was literally a foot. Like an outline of a foot on
big,
Red's
heavyweight
body.
foot.
Yeah, so I think he's got to be first to the strikes. He can't let you can't let Rakić push him back and just leg kick him for 5 rounds, because Rakić will be more than happy to do that.
100%. I think he needs to be very proactive. I think he needs to be, not necessarily constantly going forward, but ensuring that he is, productive in his strikes.
Yeah.
Wrestling, like, I could see him maybe going for a takedown.
I think he will.
I don't know how well it's going to go.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work.
Especially with a takedown defense like that. But who knows? He's very good wrestler, so who knows?
Who's the taller dude? It's Rakić. He's 6'4".
I'm going to go ahead and give my prediction. I think that the thing is, Rakić...
Blakowicz TKO, round 2.
Yeah.
Is that too early? Is it 3 rounds or is it 5 in it?
It's a 5-round fight, yeah.
Do you reckon round 2, round 3 TKO to Blakowicz?
I'm going with... I think... See, it goes one of 2 ways for me. Blakowicz will be really aggressive and finish him early-ish, like you said. Or I can see Rakić. I don't think Rakić will get the finish, but then again...
Decision, maybe.
When they're this size... And Rakić has unbelievable knockout power. It just doesn't look to lose it.
Do you think maybe if he keeps him away with those hefty leg kicks,
I think that's
tries to piece him up a little bit?
I could even see a case where the leg kicks are landing. We get about 3-4 rounds in, and Blakowicz starts getting really frustrated and rushes in like he did against Thiago Santos and leaves himself open and gets caught later on.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure in this fight. I usually back Blakowicz in every fight he's ever had because I love young Blakowicz.
He's just.
But I think Rakić is too patient. He picks his shots so well. I'm going to go with
he's
a Rakić
he's a young puppy, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, I think I'll go Rakić decision. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm going to go for... I think...
I'll be surprised if it goes with 5.
Rakić decision, or I think TKO round 2 or 3 maybe for Blakowicz.
What about you, Fergs?
I'm going to go for a sensible decision this week, because obviously, my predictions weren't quite on point last week.
Wasn't you Olivier... Gates, you want a sensible decision?
I reckon. But
Probably not.
Yeah, I'm going to go for it.
I got cut short about 4 rounds too early, son.
About 4 rounds and 3 minutes too early.
That's 3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go for a Rakić decision. I just think that I don't think that Blakowicz is going to be able to get too close to him, especially with those leg kicks. I'm not saying that I don't necessarily think this isn't my necessarily definitive one, because honestly I think this could go a few different ways. But I think that from a logical point of view, it makes I think that Blakowicz is really going to have a hard time doing it, and I think that Rakić is going to come out on top. You said about Blakowicz getting a bit too close, and Rakić using that that knockout power. It's a possibility, but if I'm honest with you, I think it's going to be a Rakić decision, keeping on the feet and whatnot.
And I'm just going to go for, just to finish off the podcast, because we've almost done an hour now, I'm just going to give you guys a few fighters to keep your eye on. So obviously the co-main, we've got two kind of big names in the same division, the light heavyweight division. We got Ryan Spann and Ion Cutelaba, which is destined to be a knockout. I would be shocked if that fight goes the whole way. But I think Cutelaba looked really good against Devin Clark last time out. I don't know if you boys remember the video, but there was a video of Devin Clark in his corner in between rounds, and all his front teeth were bashed out, completely missing. And I think his dad is his coach, and his dad turns to him and says, "We should call the fight." And Devin Clark turns and says, "Oh, fuck it, I'm going to need surgery now anyway," and carries on for the rest of the fight. So,
come on.
So I just wanted to bring that up. But I think I'm going to go Spann in that one, just because Cutelaba does slow down a lot. If people haven't watched, we got Davey Grant fighting Smolka. Davey Grant is a big fighter here in the UK. He's got some highlight reel knockouts in the UFC.
Davey Grant, my guy.
Yeah. He had a very good fight with Chito Vera. Was that his last fight? Let me just check. I think he lost to Adrian Yanez in his last fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's lost to Marlon Vera and Adrian Yanez. None of them able to finish him, which is decent for Davey Grant. So I think Davey Grant will beat Lewis Smolka. I'm going to go with that because he's English too. And
Shogun Ribas.
I think Amanda Ribas will have that. Yeah. She has had a bit of a slip up recently. Was it her last fight she lost? She lost to Marina Rodriguez before her last fight. but obviously everyone's losing to Marina right now. But I think she's got good, very good striking, good on the ground. I think she's gonna. I mean, I think Caitlin's very good, but I'm gonna go Rebus.
Nice to see how that one plays out. Actually,
if any of you haven't seen, Jake Hardley is making his UFC debut. He was on Dana White's Contender Series. He's 8-0 in his professional career.
He wasn't the one kicking off, was he?
Yeah, he was. He was. Dana White didn't have some nice words from him after, but still gave him the contract. So that just shows how much he impressed during his fight. I think he was a big underdog and fighting a guy a lot bigger, and he got a choke in quite quick. So he's one to look out for. Obviously, we've got Angela Hill, Nick Maximov, who's a famous training partner of Nate Diaz, who's undefeated. There's a lot of good fights on this card to keep an eye on for. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one too. So yeah, me and Soli will be back in the week to talk about that.
I mean, it should be a really good card. I am looking forward to it. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for listening. If you can, be sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, whatever platform you listen to us on. And thank you very much.